Over the course of our wildflower outings, we've now met many of the plant families that provide the food and fibre, as well as the medicinal and ornamental plants that are so important to our human welfare. But by far the most important family in this regard is the family of the grasses. And first among them in importance are the cereal grasses. Wheat and barley, oats and rye, millet and sorghum, maize and rice, which are the foundation of agriculture all over the world. 70% of all crops are grasses, and just 3, maize, wheat and rice, provide fully 50% of the calories we consume, as well as much of the protein. And in addition to that, there are the great variety of forage grasses, which are the basis of animal husbandry, which is so particularly important in the agriculture of a country like Ireland, where the principal crop is grass. Their lack of bright colours hides the diversity of grasses from our colour-tuned eyes. But the grasses are among the largest families of flowering plants, with between 10 and 12,000 different species. And in fact, they belong to the same cohort of the flowering plants that includes the irises and lilies, the orchids, daffodils and onions, where the floral parts are usually in threes and the leaves are long and blade-like. But unlike all of these other distant cousins, the grasses are pollinated not by insects but by the wind, which is why we don't notice their flowers as readily unless we are prone to hay fever. The flowers are tiny and are usually grouped in small clusters called spikelets, which are subtended by chaffy-like structures called glooms. Here in false oat, the spikelet consists of 2 florets, an upper hermaphrodite one and a lower male one, each subtended by a pair of glooms, the upper one much the larger of the 2. Each floret consists of a boat-shaped bit called a lemma, which encloses the 3 stamens and a single carpel, roofed over by a deck-like pallia. If we think of the lemma as a little boat, the stamens and carpel are below deck, the deck being the pallia. The stamens have the thinnest of filaments, and as soon as the flower opens, these elongate rapidly, flipping the anthers out of the boat so that they dangle loosely over the sides. The pollen is at first shed onto a pair of little spoons on the lower tip of each anther, where it is stored until the breeze carries it away. Pollen release is almost explosive, all the pollen released at once. The feathery design of the stigmas maximizes the surface area for intercepting wind-borne pollen. The flowers only open in warm, dry weather, usually early in the day, before most of us are around to observe it. Before we leave the grasses for now, we ought to at least briefly admire the superlative architectural design of the stem. False oat, the stem can be more than 1 metre high, and it's less than 2 millimetres in thickness, but it will never break unless cut by grazing teeth or mowing blade. Spaced stems cushion each other in the wind, and the strengthening woody tissue is not embedded in a solid stem as it is in most plants, but distributed in a circle of separate bundles all the way round the stem, which is hollow, and this minimizes weight. The leaf blades are upright, presenting the maximum photosynthesizing surface area for such densely clustered plants at this height. In today's agriculture, wild grasses have been consigned to the margins of fields, hedgerows and roadsides, and the occasional remaining patch of traditional meadow, such as this wonderful example here in Burcastle Domain. But 100 years ago it was very different, because a remarkable level of sophisticated understanding of the ecological characteristics and the forage qualities of the different grass species had been developed, and a remarkable level of self-sustaining productivity had been achieved. But like the grasses themselves, this vast body of understanding has been swept to the margins of agriculture. Long ago, and especially in countries like France and Sweden, falsalt had a very high repute as a forage grass, but it needed to be managed properly and in the proper rotations. And you needed to understand how to manage it properly and what the proper rotations were. But who knows, in the new agriculture that awaits us around the corner of global warming and climate change, falsalt may yet have an important role to play in Ireland's farming of the future.